I'm Simone, the Community Engagement Coordinator at ClassCover, and this is Shaun from Smile Teachers. And we're doing a Q&A style webinar tonight on SMILEosophy. So thanks for coming on board and for explaining SMILEosophy for us. And I think
that is totally fine. And what I guess I could elaborate a little bit further, and we're going to refer back to the SMILEosophy as we go through the Q&A. But basically, the first S is actually self-awareness, and basically what that refers to is really knowing yourself and spending time with yourself, actually getting to know who you are as a person, what your values are, you know, why you do certain things the way that you do. And it's about being true to yourself and actually, you know, holding yourself accountable when, you know, maybe something doesn't sit right with you, and rather than just letting it beat you down or take over your day or your lesson or that moment, you have the self-awareness to use one of the strategies that we're going to talk about and actually, you know, save yourself from ultimately a catastrophe or doing something, you know, out of character. To develop that, you need mindfulness. So you need to know how to be present, how to be in the moment, how to do things where your full attention is on that particular thing at the moment. And it's so important with teaching, because there's so many demands, and there's the needs of students, the needs of parents, the needs of staff, the needs of admin, and then you've got your own needs that you need to meet as well. So by being mindful rather than mindless, you can really start to achieve those things that we talk about in terms of flow, joy, finding a balance, and ultimately acting appropriately to certain situations. Now, the I is investment, and what that basically links back to is you've got to invest in yourself to develop anything, whether it's professional development, personal development, your relationships, your family, your partners, whatever. You need to invest in those things to actually get something out of it. And that comes from love, where you need to love yourself and you need to be kind to yourself and you need to make the effort to do all of these things for you, but you ultimately need to love yourself and appreciate who you are. And until you do that, you can't really love other people or love, you know, outside things, because the thing that's most important is loving you. And until you love you, I don't believe you can truly love somebody else 100% or truly love, you know, your job or your career. So learning to love and self-love is one really important thing. And lastly, we should all know that education is important. And I'm not just talking about schooling and teaching. I'm talking about lifelong education, where you're constantly building self-awareness, learning new mindfulness strategies, investing in yourself and learning about new concepts or ideas, and even educating yourself on love and how you can develop that. So always learning, always reading, always being thirsty for new knowledge. So that is the SMILEosophy for the 97 people that we've currently got listening, which is phenomenal.
I know.
So
I'm so happy to see that number. I'm so happy to see that number of attendees at our webinar. I think that's record numbers. So
it is, and hopefully they're all smiling, but if they're not, they're going to be by the end of it.
I hope so. And I mean, it just highlights the importance of these, you know, of this topic of well-being, and it's so much at the forefront for teachers at the moment, because I think as teachers we all feel that, you know, burnout or that demoralisation, which we'll go into later on. But if we can all join together as a community to support one another, then it makes it all that little bit easier. So I think we'll get into the first question for the evening. So the first question. Oh, here we've got. I don't know that you want to maybe go through this with us, Shaun.
Yeah. Okay. So this is basically the very fundamental program to Smile Teachers and what we are teaching in all of our programs, whether it's staff-based, student-based, management. It all comes back to this, and we call it our wedding cake, where basically for you to teach well and for you to do a good job as an educator and for you to be happy, you really need to start at the bottom of the cake, which is developing a safe emotional environment. And that's one of the big things I'm going to talk to you Relief Teachers about tonight, because that should be your primary focus as a teacher, is creating a safe emotional environment for your students. And how you do that, it takes time and it takes a few strategies. But that should be the primary focus of any teacher. From that, you can build relationships and you can develop relationships. And we've got a whole range of strategies and programs around how to build healthy relationships, whether it's with students, parents, partners, teachers, whatever it is. Relationships are so important in our lives. From there, you can go to cooperation. So you can see on the right-hand side our benefit mindset, and that's a new program we've started, and that's where you see the benefit in helping other people. And when we can get people who are selfless and engaged in helping others more than themselves, we start to develop a whole universal mindset around positivity, creativity, all the nice things that we need in the world comes from developing that mindset of, you know what, there's a bigger picture to what I'm going through, and there's more important things than just me, trying to be collective. And then if you could imagine that there's a line underneath teaching and learning. When you go to university and when you start teaching, all you focus on is teaching and learning and your purpose. And although that's important, you really don't have the fundamentals in place to successfully teach and deliver and have a purpose of, you know, I want to be the world's best teacher and change the world and educate kids and whatever. That's fine. But if you don't know how to create a safe emotional environment, then you're causing more harm than good. And if you don't know how to build relationships, your teaching and learning isn't going to be effective. So they're the things that we really build on through all of our programs. And within each of those layers, we've got so many different things that we can do with teachers individually, schools, with PD. We're building an online program, and there's lots of stuff there. And basically, the SMILEosophy is the candle on the top. So that is when you can actually use your whole power and everything that you've got to become a better person. And if you can do that and you use the SMILEosophy, your purpose will be clearly defined, and you have alignment through all of those things where you are aligned to your goal and your purpose, and all the rest will fall in place.
All right. Well, with that in mind, let's begin our questions. So first question, webinar question 1. We had a bunch of sort of questions that surrounded this idea of how can I wind down after a stressful teaching day? And as you can see, we've got questions surrounding that from Robin Kavanagh, Karina Craven, Teresa McNamee, Susan Doxley, and Corey Ferner. And I mean, we had so many other questions, so apologies if we didn't acknowledge yours, but they have all been taken into account. It's important, Shaun, I think it's really important to be reflective, but it's also equally important to recognize when it's time to put those reflections to rest. And before you get too deep in negative self-talk or your inner voice, I think it's important, everyone, to remember not to beat yourself up and recognize what didn't go well and what you can do better next time. And it might take 3 goes or 300 goes before you find something that works. But also remembering that not every class is the same. And so strategies that might work with 75% of the classes that you work with might not work with the 25% of the other classes. So, Shaun, I just wonder what your take on this question is. Like, how can teachers wind down after a stressful teaching day?
I hear this a lot with teachers where they get caught in this reactive mindset, and they're stuck in this mindset of, I need to get more done, I don't have time to look after myself, I'm so busy, I'm so stressful. And what I bring it back to is something that I've only probably in the last 6 months developed, and it's really important because I'm still teaching full time and I'm running Smile Teachers, but I've got a thing called me time, and I'm sure you've all heard of it. It's really simple, but you need to build it into your structure and you need to have it in your schedule. And I quickly printed it out this afternoon, but it's a bit extreme. But I've literally got my day broken up, or week broken up, into 15-minute blocks where I've got 2-3 hour blocks at some points during the week, which is for me. And I don't negotiate that time. And it's so essential for teachers because you have to have that me time to just switch off, and it will take you time to switch off from work when you start practicing it. So some of the things that I've put in here as suggestions for how you can, release yourself from stress at the end of the day. And it could be cooking, reading, sport, whatever it is, even having a glass of wine by yourself on the couch or on the back deck while you just think about your day. But what it all comes back to is being kind to yourself and appreciating yourself regardless of what happens at school. So that's the love component coming in there. But the Nelson Mandela quote, which I love so much, where I am the captain of my fate, I'm the master of my soul. You're ultimately in control of however you feel and however you react to those feelings. So by catching yourself, by setting aside the me time, and by making a conscious investment and effort into managing your well-being, you're going to help release that stress and wind down at the end of the day. Now, if you're highly strung and you're overwhelmed and you can catch yourself, feeling like that, there's two things that I recommend: a workout or a breathing routine. Now, we all know how exercise is important, but exercise releases all those feel-good hormones, chemicals, pheromones, serotonin, oxytocin, all the good stuff that you need to feel good. So either go for a run, go for a walk, get outside and move, because the way you move will influence the way that you think and the way that you feel. So my first thing would be get moving. If you can't get moving, it can be as simple as a breathing routine. Now, this seems really alternative for a lot of people, but a breathing routine helps you to reduce stress, release tension, helps you dial in with how you're feeling, and it really helps you detach from stress. Now, the body sends a message to the brain with how we're breathing. So how you breathe is how you're going to live. And it's even proven that the way that you breathe throughout your life can impact on your lifespan. So if you take short, shallow breaths, you're going to have a short, shallow life. And if you can take deep and long breaths, you're going to have a longer lifespan. So one, we know that exercise is really important. Two, we know that breathing is really important, because if we don't breathe, we die. And that's a simple fact. So the thing that I would suggest is some breathing exercises. And if you look online, there's a whole plethora of different breathing exercises that, have come from yoga, Kaizen, all these different traditions all over the world where they know that breathing works. So the first simple one, which I want you guys to even try right now, is just taking the deepest possible breath you can take that you have taken today. So just while we're sitting here, I'm going to do it with everybody and just take the deepest possible breath on 3, hold it for a second, and then release it slowly. So let's go. Breathe in. And out. Straight away, you should have felt release of tension, a release of stress. There's so many different breathing exercises. Okay, I do one where I do 10 count through one nostril, 10 count through the other. And it's so powerful just focusing on your breathing. So my 2 biggest strategies for winding down after a stressful day would be exercise and breathing. But most importantly, you need to make that me time to do stuff for you. If you want to have dinner with your family, you want to go out and get grilled, if you want to just check in with your partner and go to Nando's, leave your phones at home, turn everything off, and you need like an hour an evening, I would say, of just total me time.
Thanks for that, Shaun.
It's fun.
There are so many. I actually learned to breathe as a musician, playing a wind instrument, and one of the things that that I was taught was to remember to breathe into basically your tummy, and not to keep it all up in your shoulders or in your chest. So when you breathe in, take a deep sort of belly breath, and then I think you'll really feel the difference. If you're breathing sort of shallow breathing, you tend to keep it all up in your shoulders and in your chest. But taking a big belly breath, gets that oxygen flowing, and
absolutely.
You definitely
and
see
if you feel tense or you feel like really under the pump, I would suggest is doing 10 deep breaths, as deep as you can, in through your nose, out through your mouth, because the out through the mouth really calms the central nervous system, because there's a lot of sensory receptors in your throat, and it really calms it down. And the other thing that I was going to suggest there with the deep breathing is, so in yoga, I'm obviously right into my yoga. The Ujjayi breath, which is the traditional yoga breath, starts at the navel, so right down the bottom, and you breathe all the way up, and you fill up to the tops of your collarbones, and then the breath out starts at your collarbones and makes its way back down. So you're getting that full expansion of your body. And at first it's going to feel weird, like anything. Your body's not used to it. It's going to feel uncomfortable, but it's the best thing for it. So exercise, breathing, and make that me time.
Yeah, right. I'm also just going to see, yeah. Hope everyone can see us on screen as well as those webinar questions. I think
if they can't,
I'm not sure
can they chat?
What's that?
If they can't see, are they able to chat with us?
Yeah, they can chat and let us know. So if you can see us as well as the webinar questions that are being displayed, send us a message. Okay, I'm getting a message saying we can't see you.
Oh,
Someone
no.
says can't see you. Someone says can see you both. Okay, so maybe it depends on the
turn on their webcam.
Not sure. Okay, well let's continue the webinar. So moving on to webinar question 2.
Yep.
Which is how can I respond to the disrespect of not being regarded as a real teacher? Now, this really broke my heart to read the questions and the comments around this, because I think it's really unfair that relief teachers are treated then lesser than a full-time teacher. You know, we all went to uni, we all did our degrees, and for whatever reason, you might have you might be looking for work, but you also might have chosen to be a relief teacher for, you know, personal reasons or whatever, you know, whatever works for you. So this is really heartbreaking to sort of read these questions. But it can be the reality, and as a former teacher myself, I can see that. So I always made it, for me, I don't know about you, Shaun, and I'm sure that you'll share some of your knowledge with us in a sec, but I always made it a personal challenge to act about 10 times nicer to someone who was cold or dismissive, and it sort of it did help to sort of break the ice and sort of, I don't know, lessen any negative interactions between me and that person. I mean, even if that person was being well rude to me, if recess came around and I had an opportunity to maybe duck out for a coffee, I'd ask them, or, you know, if they wanted one as well. And I think almost in some circumstances they were actually quite surprised that I was being so nice to them, because even I'm sure that sometimes they catch themselves out being a bit brief with people. So I guess everyone responds to it in different ways, but I wonder what your take on it is.
Yeah, when I saw this question, I smiled, to be honest, because it actually, like, I love this sort of stuff where you've got we at Smile Teachers, we call them Nancy Fig Jam. So those people that, you know, they've probably been in education a little bit too long, and, you know, they might have a bit of an opinion, but the biggest thing is kill them with kindness, like Simone said. And, you know, humans are negative. Like, most humans are negative people because it's the way that we're programmed. But killing them with kindness is, you know, my favorite thing to do. And like Simone said, buy them a coffee, tell them that you love their dress, whatever that is, because eventually they have to give
work. Compliments work. But also, like, there's another quote, I know that you're saying kill them with kindness, but there's another one, like, throw kindness like confetti. I like that one too, because it's just spread it, and you know, you're bound to get a good response, if not from them, at least from someone.
Yeah. But the thing that it comes back to in terms of the SMILEosophy is self-awareness and love. So I always think to myself, if that person is the way that they are, or they're acting that way, it's a reflection of them, and it's not a reflection of me. So I actually think about it, and I feel sorry that that person actually feels the need to act that way, and it's obviously some underlying issues or insecurities that, you know, they've got. And the best thing you can do is try and greet everybody that you interact with a smile, because obviously it's the biggest human emotion and it's so important. So just greet them with a smile, smile, keep walking, kill them with kindness. And one thing to think in your head, whenever you have an interaction with somebody, whether it's a positive or a negative, I like to think to myself, I wish this person all the happiness and kindness in the universe, just the way that you approach them. So that's one really simple strategy. When you're talking to these people that are difficult, think in your head, I wish this person all the happiness and all the kindness in the universe. And, you know, it'll work eventually, and it's going to take time. But also a key thing, especially with these difficult teachers, or, you know, you're being disregarded or disrespected as not being a real teacher, think about listening to understand and not to respond. I found this is a really important one. So that person, they may want to tell you this, that, and the other, blah, 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 what you're doing wrong. Just listen to them and just say, okay, thank you, or, okay, thank you, can you suggest how I do this differently? Let them tell you without responding, because the biggest thing is if you then respond and try and, you know, defend your case or, you know, rebut, they're going to get agitated and it's going to be more emotional for you. So just listen to understand and not to respond. And that's a really important barrier to put up.
Yeah, I don't know how many teachers have come across, actually. There's a concept that has been adopted by some Australian schools called the Leader in Me program, and it's basically the habits of highly happy kids. And habit 5 is actually seek first to understand, then to be understood. So I think that goes hand in hand with what you're saying, and I think it's something definitely to remember.
Well, 2 ears, 1 mouth. That's what we say. You've got 2 ears for a reason. So listen twice as much as you talk. But I also looked at this question in terms of students. So I put some things in here as well about if students are, you know, being the disrespectful ones. So like I said before, that first 7 minutes of you with the students is so critical. So you need to do something engaging. You need to greet them at the door. That's the first thing. Greet the students at the door. Don't be waiting behind the desk, because that's a barrier between you and them straight away. So greet the students at the door. Make the effort to do an activity, an engagement activity, something about you, connect with the students. And your primary focus for any lesson as a relief teacher should be that safe emotional environment. You know, some teachers get funny about, you know, you didn't get through everything, but you're just going to have to ride that wave and let it go. Like if you didn't get through everything, but you had a really enjoyable, positive lesson with the kids, then awesome. But in terms of the disrespect thing with the behavior, once you've established that safe emotional environment and you've set clear expectations about what you want from the kids, if there's a disobedient student or a student disrespecting you, you need to attention it the first time and make sure you do something about it, because it'll send a message to the rest of the class that, you know, this teacher is a real teacher. They haven't come here to, like, you know, muck around. Yes, they're a person. Yes, they care about us, but we need to do what is required and we need to respect them. So make sure you clearly state your expectations after you've established that safe emotional environment. And the last thing I've got for this is in regards to negative self-image or criticism of relief teachers, that no matter what you do or where you go, there is always going to be narcissism or the Nancy Fig Jams. It doesn't matter what school you're in, it is going to be there. And you can't control what other people do or say, but you can control what you think and what you do in response. So make a pact with yourself to be you, Inc., I call it. So be yourself, be true to yourself, and don't give in to those bullies or critical people. You're just going to have to bite your tongue and smile and confetti, kindness, whatever Simone said earlier. Kindness is like confetti. Just throw it around everywhere.
Yeah, and I think as well, off the back of that, Shaun, is if you act like a professional, and if you, I mean, almost fake it till you make it type thing. Like if you go in and you show a lot of confidence, and you act like a professional, you're going to get the response you know, a lot more of the time that you are a professional. So, you know, take pride in yourself and trust your professional judgment, and that's what you can do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Right, we'll move on to webinar question 3 now.
Cool.
Webinar question 3, we had a lot of questions come through with this one. So it's, what can I do to stay calm amidst classroom chaos? So thanks to some of those questions that came through from Natalie Couples, Mandy Fuller, Stephen McLeod, Pauline Young, and Amandeep Kaur. Yeah, this is a tough one, and it sort of goes hand in hand with like adaptability and but also letting things sort of roll off your back. Just, I think what's also important to remember is not to be hard on yourself again, but also that the behaviour of the students isn't always a reflection on you or of your teaching or, you know, your ability as a teacher. So not to get too worked up about, you know, that you should be able to handle it. Every class is different, and as a relief teacher, you're walking into classrooms that are unfamiliar. You don't know what you're going to get, so that's really hard to predict and really hard to manage. So don't be hard on yourself. If you know you're getting a little bit stressed, you know, stress is okay, but just don't let it overwhelm you as well. I think another important thing to remember is that reacting emotionally is likely going to make things worse. So try to step back from the situation and approach it with more of a professional mindset. Like, don't take what they do personally. Don't take what they say personally, and try to just sort of work through it to find solutions. I don't know what more you can add to that, Shaun, but
I've got lots to add to this one, and it's making me excited because this is one of my favourite strategies. So everybody knows the song "Stop, Collaborate, and Listen." Okay, so this is the strategy: stop, collaborate, and listen. The first thing is stop, and it's my favourite mindfulness strategy because it is so simple and so easy. So stop stands for stop what you're doing, take a deep breath, observe how you're feeling, and proceed with mindfulness. So when you're in that moment and you're stressed out and it's chaotic, it takes 2 seconds to just stop, take a deep breath. All right, I'm okay. I've got this. It's fine. I'm okay. I'm going to do it. And then, you know, go forward and do it. If it's a difficult conversation you're going to have with somebody else, again, before you enter the room, before you're emotional, you're not thinking clearly, use it. Stop. Take a deep breath. You might have to take more than one breath, okay? If you're not feeling 100%, you need to get yourself together, observe how you're feeling, think about it, and then proceed and go ahead. So the next thing, okay, that you can do is, so this little bracelet that I've got on, I've had it on for so long, that's my stop token. So that reminds me throughout the day when I might, you know, it's there all the time, but occasionally I'll feel it or I'll see it there, and it's just my chance to check in and be like, oh, how am I feeling at the moment? Yeah, I'm a little bit, you know, tired. I'm a little bit stressed because I'm really busy, but it's all good. I'm going to focus on my breathing for the next 20 minutes while I'm teaching, just to keep myself on top of everything. So that stop, you can use a sticky note. People put things on their bathroom mirror, so when they're brushing their teeth, doing their makeup in the morning, they remember. You can have a reminder on your laptop. That's the first part to managing that emotional feeling, where eventually those self-saboteurs can hijack this thing and you're not making the right decisions. So stop. The second is collaborate. So work with other people, talk to people, get help, figure out what's going on, because more than one brain is going to help you solve the problem. And if you talk about it, it's likely that other people are having the same problem. So if you're having classroom chaos, if you're stuck in the moment, look to ways of collaborating. Get the kids up, do an activity, get engaging, just change the situation, change the environment. And the last one is listen. So just listen to the things around you. What are the kids doing? Like just listen to the kids having fun. Just listen to what's happening in the conversation next door, and just take a moment to listen. But then also it's about listening to other people and what they've got to offer. So remember, stop, collaborate, and listen. Us is back with a bit or whatever it goes. Okay, but remember that little strategy of stop, collaborate, and listen, and save yourself that emotional damage. Okay, so another thing you could do to avoid that classroom chaos from the very start of your lesson is, although you've got a run sheet from the teacher that says these are the things that we need to achieve, say to the class, what would you like to do at the end of the lesson? And they might go, oh, we want to play dodgeball, or we want to play Simon Says, or let's play categories, whatever it is, and say, okay, if you can get this, and this done in the next 20 minutes, we'll have a game of categories and it'll be fun. You've got to set those things up because you don't have long with the kids. So you need to just give the kids some ideas and collaborate with them and listen to what they've got to say, and it'll help your lesson. Now, Simone talked about controlling emotions. Now, this is one thing that I'm so passionate about now because I used to be horrible at it and I'm getting better, but it takes a lot of willpower and a lot of my self-awareness and mindfulness to manage it. But we are biological creatures. So our brain is programmed to respond to emotions. And some of us are more emotional than others. What it all comes back to is that fight or flight response. And there's all these hormones and chemicals going off in your brain, and it's biological. And our brain or our education tells us to act logically, and it just doesn't work like that. So you need to, like Simone mentioned, you need to learn to sit with your emotions more, and this is essential for a teacher. So you need to be self-aware and understand that if you're feeling stressed, there's probably a reason for it, but don't let it ruin your whole lesson or your whole day, because there's strategies that you can use to help this. Okay, so we create the feelings that come to us. Our brain creates it. They don't just magically appear. So we have to accept them, and the trick is to welcome them. So if you're feeling stressed or you're feeling anxious, learning to be like, okay, I'm stressed, it's fine, I've got this, bring it on, let's go. I'm gonna get over this little mountain or hill or grain of sand that I need to hop over, because there's a nice saying where emotions are like weather. We can't predict them or control them. We can only observe them. So it's the same as the weather. We can't predict the weather. We can't control the weather. We can only observe them. It's the same with emotions. And that is my, I guess, big tick of self-awareness, learning to sit with how you're feeling.
And I think just off the back of that as well, Shaun, is that, like, I know it sounds pretty cliche, but something I learned from yoga is, when you, I don't know how many of you have been to a yoga class, but the first couple of times you go, you really feel silly, and it's quite difficult to, hold the poses and do that kind of stuff. And I didn't really understand the point. Like, I didn't understand what I was supposed to be getting out of it. And people say go to yoga and you're really relaxed, and then I actually found I was quite stressed in these yoga classes because I couldn't hold the poses and couldn't work out how to do it. And I used to sort of talk, I could hear that negative talk, like, why aren't you strong enough to hold this pose, or why can't you do it like that person? And actually one day the instructor said yoga is all about finding comfort in the discomfort. And that's why, like, in those situations where you're put through, so I think, like, the poses is almost like a difficult situation, a challenging time. And you need to work on how to manage those tricky situations and find comfort, because life's always busy, life's full of ups and downs and stuff, and if you let it get to you every single time something goes wrong, you're going to have a hard time. So finding comfort in the discomfort, I find, is yoga,
meditation, mindfulness are all so powerful, because that is what they're doing. Because obsessive thought and trying to control the way you're feeling is what causes more anxiety and stress. So the more you obsess over, oh, I'm stressed out, I'm tired, I'm anxious, I'm worried, you're going to amplify that feeling. That is when it leads to burnout. That is when it leads to mental illness. That is what happened to me. That is when I discovered yoga, because unfortunately it took a catastrophe for me to start to manage my well-being. And the reason I've started Smile Teachers is because I don't want teachers to have a catastrophe where they have an emotional fracture and break down to figure all of this out, because it's available to you right now. You just need to do things like the SMILEosophy. And the last thing that I'll say on this one is, if you try to get rid of one wave with another, you end up with a very turbulent and infinite sea. So that is your mind. If you're trying to get away and get rid of one thought with another thought or another thing, it's not going to happen. You're just going to cause yourself more anxiety.
Yeah. And I mean, it does sound like we don't want to sound cliche and say, do more yoga. It's not really about that, because it doesn't work for everyone, and it's not for everyone. But I just find that a lot of these concepts overlap, and they're just good to keep in mind when you're having, when you're
with
Smile, a lot of stress.
We want to take every little strategy and tool that we can possibly find in terms of teaching and learning, well-being, mindfulness, give them to the teachers, so you can choose whether it's drinking a glass of red wine on your back porch, going to yoga, doing sport, whatever it is. You need something that works for you, and that is where developing the SMILEosophy will help you find what you need, because you're investing in you. You might try yoga, you might try Tai Chi, you might try Qigong. There's so many different breath-related movement exercises that you can choose. It's readily available. You just need to make the investment and make the me time to go and do it.
Yeah. Oh, we should probably move on to the next couple of questions. We've got 3 more to go, and then a few more things to say. But I also want to say that I am reading your responses as they come in, and I'm getting some interesting comments, and some of them are a little sad, relating to full-time teachers ignoring relief teachers and that kind of thing. So I think, like we've been saying, it's important to remember you can't change the actions of someone else, but you can just change how you respond to them. Someone made a suggestion that if you have a moment offering to do one of their playground duties, always cheer someone up and get them on side. So you could also try that as well.
That's a great idea. But even like just saying hello every time you walk past them, or hi, how are you? How's your day? Just simple stuff. And they might give you a one-worded answer, but just let it go. You can't change the way they're feeling.
That's right. Okay, so webinar question 4. How can I work towards a work-life balance? I found this nearly impossible as a teacher, but I do believe it's achievable, given the right tools and the right kind of support.
Self-awareness.
Yes, what's that?
It all just comes back to self-awareness. Having the awareness to be like, I can't just keep doing work at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. Like, you didn't become a teacher to have no life. That's right. So was there something else you wanted to add there?
No, I think so. These questions were sort of hard to wrap up in one question. So Tamara, Christine, and Shannon, thanks for your questions. So Tamara sort of said that she works part-time. She's not a full-time teacher, but never even feels like she's giving enough to work or family, and so it's hard to juggle that. Christine, she obviously as a teacher enjoys helping others, but neglects her own goals. So again, that work-life balance, but also like that element of looking after yourself. You can't give from an empty cup. So looking after yourself is really important. And this one was a little bit tenuous, but I also thought fit in. I love the flexibility of teaching.
I've got some really good stuff here to help teachers with this.
But I'm missing a sense of accomplishment. How can I achieve this? So let's launch into it, Shaun. We don't want to run out of time. We've got 20 minutes to go.
I'll try and keep it quick. But the biggest thing here is the gap between where you are and where you think you need to be. Okay, it's a big problem for a lot of teachers. They all get stuck in this growth mindset where they think they need to be doing more, accomplishing more, achieving their goals, whatever that is. Time is the most valuable thing that you currently have at your disposal. Every single human being on this planet Earth has time on their side. And the more you value that, the happier you are going to be. And the thing that causes teachers the most stress and anxiety is that gap. So learning to develop self-awareness, mindfulness, investment in yourself, self-love, and learning about who you are is going to help you feel more happy and joyful about your lifestyle. So in order to find that balance, okay, and bring that back into, I guess, a good perspective, is your to-do list does not have to be 0 at the end of every day. And the sooner you can acknowledge that and sit with that, the happier you're going to be. As long as you're moving forward, you're exactly where you need to be. Okay, if you're moving forward and you're achieving little things daily, you're winning and you're doing a great job, but you need to be making the time to reflect on that. So for questions like the one from Shannon about how can I achieve this with a sense of accomplishment, and Christine, you know, neglecting my own goals, well, you'd probably be surprised. You're probably not neglecting your own goals, and you probably are accomplishing a lot of things. And Tamara, you're probably balancing more than enough, but you need to take the time to reflect and acknowledge that you are doing a great job. So accept that some things can't be changed, and you're probably not going to win everything with management and workload, but acknowledge what you are doing well on a regular basis, and I'm sure you will find the happiness in whatever you're doing.
Shall we move on?
Yeah.
All right. Let's go on to webinar question 5. So webinar question 5, it's a little bit to do with anxiety and the specific anxiety that can be brought on by relief teaching. So what can you do to combat the specific anxieties that are brought on by relief teaching? So Karen, for example, this one was one that took a lot of time for me to sort of manage. How do you deal with last minute phone calls? And this one broke my heart a little bit. Abia, how do you keep your smile as a casual? I hope that you find some ways to keep your smile as a casual, because you know, we don't want unhappy teachers. We don't want unhappy people. It's a shame that all teachers become teachers and stay teachers. I truly believe this, because they want to change the world. And when you're tested time and time again, you start to feel silly almost for thinking that you could. But I want everyone to like, when you feel like quitting, remember the reason you started. Like, you're there because you care a lot, and you know, you're there to do your best. But relief teaching, it does bring on a specific set of challenges. So Shaun, how can we combat those anxieties?
Right, everybody that is in the webinar right now, I want you to sit up as tall as you can in your chair, or get up off the couch, shoulders back, head up, chin up, and smile with the biggest possible smile that you can do. I want to see, I can't see them.
How can you not smile? How can you not smile when you're being told to smile?
And while you're smiling, try and feel depressed. It's impossible. The best strategy that you can use at any moment to deal with anxiety is to just smile. Okay, I do it sometimes and my students are like, what is he doing? And they laugh and it's contagious. But catch yourself feeling negative and smile, because your smile impacts your whole physiology. There's wrinkles and there's creases and little things and lips and everything sending messages to your brain to say that you're happy. So start the day with a smile, look at yourself in the mirror, smile, tell yourself how wonderful you are, give yourself a little pep talk. I've got all kinds of stuff written all over my house, and it freaks some of my mates out because it's telling me how amazing I am and how positive I am. And finish the day with a smile as well before you go to bed. Be present, be mindful, and focus on the golden moments. When you have a little win, when you have a light bulb moment, when a student says something funny, smile and go with it, because you need to find that. Otherwise, you'll get bogged down in all those stressful things. Now, the next thing is gratitude. And I'm so passionate about gratitude and daily gratitude. Life is a beautiful thing. And what you need to remember is, if you change the way you think and you change the way you feel, you're going to change everything. So be grateful. We live in a beautiful country. We have all the necessities we need to live. There's people in Africa getting up every morning and walking 7 miles to get not even clean water, to get water. We have fresh water. We have clothing. We have shelter. We have everything we need. Like, yes, teaching can be stressful, but it shouldn't change your whole perception of your life. And by doing daily gratitude, I write it down morning and night, 5 things that I'm grateful for. And it literally, you can't be unhappy when you are grateful. So I really encourage you to practice gratitude and daily gratefulness, random acts of kindness. You know, there's 7 billion people on the planet now, I think, and there's people living in poverty. We are, whether you like it, whether you believe it or not, we are in the top 10% of the world in terms of poverty. And to be honest, we don't really have a real reason to be upset that we've had a tough day at school. So that's all about changing perception.
Sorry for interjecting, Shaun. I think
That's
it is
right.
important to keep the perspective, like that kind of perspective, that it's a really wide perspective. But I think when you're in the moment of anxiety, it can be difficult to remember those things. But I do really believe the thing about gratitude, and one of the things that I've heard is, instead of, like, whenever you feel like making a complaint, or for example, if a school calls you in the morning and you're thinking, oh, I wish they had called me last night, or, you know, how am I going to get everything together to get to school? It's all about changing that into, wow, I'm so grateful that I got a day of work today, or I'm so lucky to be able to teach a class of students today, or I'm so lucky to have the opportunity to make some money, anything that works for you. But to change those complaints into sort of statements of gratitude, and for me, that really worked to combat anxieties.
It's one of the things that completely changed my whole, you know, mental well-being was gratitude and saying thank you to people. I've got them here. I can even show you. So I do it daily, where I write a gratitude card a day to somebody random. And do you know how it makes them feel when they get it? Like, I've got one here to, like, one of the ladies that works in HR, because she helped me with something a couple of weeks ago, just to say, hey, really appreciated the chat the other day, made my day, really helped me out. She gets this card, she's stoked, you're feeling good, and it really works. And, you know, I challenge you, I've seen people do like 365-day challenges where they try and write a card a day to somebody. There's so many different activities that you can do, warm fuzzies at school, whatever it is. Gratitude really is the big thing for changing your attitude. And I think an attitude of gratitude is the best thing for dealing with anxiety.
I think there's also that, but someone's made a good point on GoTo, on the webinar chat. Get up in the morning expecting to go to work as well. So preparation is also part of it too. Yep. You know, you can change your mindset and everything, but it's also, if you're prepared, you know, you're less likely to feel those anxieties to that extent. You know, so if work doesn't come, you set up for the day, whatever it may bring.
Well, I know we haven't talked about this, but one of the things that I do talk about in the SMILEosophy and with my timetable that I think a lot of teachers probably struggle with it is, I call it my hour of power, where it's early, but 5:30 a.m. till 6:30 a.m., that's when I pretty much do my me time. So I get up at 5:30. I actually go for a walk down the park with my shoes off. So if you ever come down there, who's this weird guy with his shoes off at 5:30 walking across the grass? Because I feel that it grounds me and it really helps me, like, connect with how I'm feeling. And I do, like, I still, because I've battled mental illness, I still wake up with anxiety every morning. But if I don't get up and I don't go and do that, I'm going to carry that through the whole day with me. So,
I mean, and different things will work for different people as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, we should move on to webinar question 6. And this question was, I actually just put this one question in, and thanks to Prue Moloney for sending this one in. I think that I think that this one really resonated with me personally, because it's been just brought to the forefront of everyone's minds, and I'll speak about that in a minute. So how does one cope with feeling demoralised? Well, I guess this shared feeling of demoralisation amongst the teacher community has been brought to the forefront of people's mind recently, just due to a really important discussion that happened on ABC's Q&A program. So if anyone's watched that program, if you have social media and you're a teacher, you've probably seen this discussion being shared, because it's highlighted so many problems in education, but also it's also highlighted how so many teachers are feeling. So also remember, you're not alone. So many teachers feel the same way you do. So Gabby Stroud actually explained that burnout, for example, we hear this term burnout all the time, and it does have a place, but burnout suggests, and this is what I found amazing from her, that burnout suggests that a teacher didn't do everything well. Like, maybe they didn't sleep well, maybe they didn't eat well, maybe they aren't taking time for themselves, when actually, in actual fact, a lot of teachers are doing these things. And what they are feeling is actually the symptoms of demoralisation, which is a feeling where you know as a teacher which way you want to go, but you're restrained and limited by the systems in place, and you feel really downtrodden by the people around you, and that is really hard to cope with.
Yeah.
For me, I think it's just also it's the way to cope with this, or the way that I tried to cope with it, was by knowing that I'm not alone in those feelings, and that you'll find that the really good teachers, they do feel this. The passionate teachers, they are the experts. Because it's hard to find someone who's not good at what they do if they're passionate about it, and it can be demoralizing when you know what to do with your kids, but you're told to go a different way. So really quickly, Shaun, if you have any advice for feeling demoralized, let's go through it, and then
well, part of the reason that we started Smile Teachers was to create a community of teachers. Okay, so I understand you can't control what management do all the time, and you can't control what the system does anymore, but eventually we want to have all these teachers that are empowered, practicing mindfulness, using the SMILEosophy, and we want them to start to take a little bit of ownership and responsibility back for the career. And, I'd love for one day to there be, whoever it is, I'm not saying us, but somebody talking in Parliament about how it's important to look after teachers' well-being, and that needs to be the priority of the education system, rather than standardisation and NAPLAN and ICAS and all this different testing. Well, what is school really about? It's about educating students. It's about teaching them how to be people.
But again, it is hard to. We don't have control over it. I mean,
that's right.
If we all connect as a community, we might have more of a voice. But at the end of the day, these are things that are out of control. So how can we cope with it?
If you're not being listened to at your school, then you need to find another school. That's one of the big things. And I've talked to another teacher about that this week. And teachers, it is one of those things. Like, if you're not prepared to change your environment or change where you are, then you're going to have to put up with it, and you're going to have to, connect with community, collaborate with other teachers, speak to each other and support each other. But if you're in an environment that's causing you to feel demoralized and you can't change it, well, then you need to look at your well-being and whether it's worth staying in that environment. And it sucks. It really does suck.
I mean, I don't disagree with you, Shaun. I think, though, that it is important, that can be unrealistic for some teachers if they, maybe they have a permanent job there, and the responsibilities that hold them there, they need to be considered as well. But it's that finding the comfort in the discomfort. And if you know what's best for your kids, like, trust your gut, trust your professional judgment, know how to back yourself up if anyone questions it. But at the same time, I mean, if you can't change your environment, which can sometimes be the case, it could be a matter of finding the community, and something like the Relief Teacher Association or Smile Teachers, where there's a supportive group of people that will listen, that can be helpful too. I mean, I know that it was so refreshing to see someone on TV talking about this, because it made me feel better about it. And so if you share that sentiment with other teachers, I think that can have a positive effect as well.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why I have people doing live videos, webinars, posting, because it just shows that you're not alone, and there's other teachers going through the same stuff. And there is some strategies that can help the way you're feeling and acting and behaving. And they're the things you should be trying to control, because you might not be able to control the bigger picture. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we're at the end of our webinar. So just before we leave, thank you so much, Shaun, for
That's okay. Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, it does. And I mean, we've got through a lot, and you know, we'd love to hear your feedback. So, I mean, Facebook groups, if you haven't already joined the Relief Teacher Association or ClassCover or Smile Teachers, great communities to be part of. And if you have feedback for tonight's webinar, we'd love to hear it, because this has obviously been a really huge topic. We've got a record number of attendees, and I think that's excellent. I hope we've reached a whole community of teachers and been able to help in some way. So I'll go on now. Part of being part of a community also is that you get to network with a whole bunch of people like you. So the Relief Teacher Conferences is a great chance to meet face to face with other teachers, other like-minded people. You get 5 hours of PD, morning tea and lunch, and just a really good day of learning from the experts. We've got some great presenters lined up. I'm really excited to see these take off. If you are attending our conference in Perth, we really encourage you all to come. I'll be there, Shaun will be there. It will be such a delight to see smiling faces and to meet some of the teachers behind the questions that we got tonight. I know that I will take such a, I don't know, it will be just an honor to meet you and to chat with you about your challenges and successes as a teacher. And I know that Shaun, in developing Smile Teachers, he shares a similar sentiment. So I'll pass over to Shaun as well, because I think he'd love to say something about the Bali Teachers Retreats.
Yeah, so we do have a retreat in Bali, 13th to 18th of January for school teachers. So it involves a little bit of PD each day, but you're staying in a world-class health resort that is absolutely amazing. We do have a special discounted rate for Relief Teachers Association members. You can find out more info on our website, or there'll be some stuff coming out through ClassCover and RTA. But it's going to be phenomenal and the perfect way to learn a lot of these strategies. Do yoga, meditation, mindfulness, eat really healthy, meet like-minded teachers, and start the school year feeling amazing.
If you're a teacher and you've got some time off from the January break and you're thinking of planning a holiday, what an opportunity to sort of have a holiday, but also sort of get on top of some PD at the same time. I think it's an excellent thing that Smile teachers are doing.
It is tax deductible as well, so that's a massive tick. How
good. All right, well, thank you, everyone. Thanks so much from us at ClassCover and the Relief Teachers Association, and thank you, Shaun, for coming in and chatting with us. Yes, hope you all walk away with a smile. So thanks so much.
I will. Thank you.
Night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
I can still see you, Simone.
Yep, I'm exiting the webinar. Good night, everyone.